Book 10, Aeolus, the Laestrygonians, and Circe. Next we reached Aeolia, a floating island where Aeolus lived, son of Hippotas, whom immortal gods hold dear. Around it runs an impenetrable wall of bronze, and cliffs rise up in a sheer face of rock. His 12 children live there in the palace, 6 daughters as well as 6 full-grown sons. He gave the daughters to the sons in marriage, and they are always at a banquet feasting, beside their dear father and good mother, with an infinite supply of tasty food set out before them. The smells of cooking fill the house all day. The courtyard echoes to the sounds of celebration. At night they go to sleep beside their faithful wives, on coverlets and beds well strung with cord. We reached the splendid palace in the city, and for 1 whole month he entertained me, always asking questions about everything: Troy, Argive ships, how Achaeans made it home, and I told him all from start to finish. When, for my part, I asked to take my leave, and told him he should send me on my way, he denied me nothing and helped me go. He gave me a bag made out of oxhide, flayed from a creature 9 years old, and tied up in it all the winds that blow from every quarter, for Kronos' son has made Aeolus keeper of the winds, and he could calm or rouse them as he wished. With a shining silver cord, he lashed that bag inside my hollow ship, so as to stop even the smallest breath from getting out. He also got a west wind breeze to blow to carry ships and men on their way home. But that's not how things happened to turn out. We ruined everything with our own folly. For 9 whole days and nights we held our course, and on the 10th we glimpsed our native land. We came in so close we could see the men who tend the beacon fires. But then sweet sleep came over me. I was too worn out. All that time my hands had gripped the sail rope. I'd not let go of it or passed it on to any shipmate, so that we'd get home more quickly. But as I slept, my comrades started talking to each other, claiming I was taking gold and silver back with me, gifts of Aeolus, brave son of Hippotas. Glancing at the man who sat beside him, one of them would say something like this: "It's not fair. Everyone adores this man and honors him, no matter where he goes, to any city, any land. From Troy he's taking a huge stash of glorious loot, but those of us who've been on the same trip are coming home with empty hands. And now Aeolus, because he's a friend of his, has freely given him these presents. Come on, let's see how much gold and silver he has in this bag." As they talked like this, my companions' greedy thoughts prevailed. They untied the bag. All the winds rushed out. Storm winds seized them, swept them out to sea, in tears away from their own native land. At that point, I woke up. Deep in my heart I was of 2 minds. I could jump overboard and drown at sea, or just keep going in silence, remain among the living. I stayed there and suffered on. Covering up my head, I lay down on the deck, while our ships, loaded with my whimpering companions, were driven by those wicked blasts of wind all the way back to Aeolus Island. We went ashore there and brought back water. My crew had a quick meal beside the ships. Once we'd had something to eat and drink, I set off for Aeolus' splendid palace, taking with me 1 comrade and a herald. I found him feasting with his wife and children, so we went into the house and sat down on the threshold, right beside the doorposts. In their hearts they were amazed. They asked me, "Odysseus, how is it you've come back here? What cruel god has been attacking you? We took great care to send you on your way so you'd get home, back to your native land, or any other place, just as you wished." That's what they asked. With a heavy heart I answered them, "My foolish comrades, aided by malicious sleep, have injured me. But, my friends, you can repair all this. That's in your power." I said these words to reassure them, but they stayed silent. Then their father gave me this reply: "Of all living men, you are the worst. So you must leave this island with all speed. It would violate all sense of what is right if I assisted or escorted on his way a man the blessed gods must hate. So leave. You're here because the deathless gods despise you." Once he'd said this, he sent me from his house for all my heavy groans. Then, sick at heart, we sailed on further, my crewmen's spirits worn down by the weary work of rowing. Because we'd been such fools, there was no breeze to help us on our way. We went on like this for 6 whole days and nights. On the 7th, we came to Telemachus, great citadel of Lamus, king of Laestrygonians, where the herdsman, driving in his flock, salutes the herdsman moving his beasts out. There a man who had no need of sleep could earn 2 wages, one for tending cattle, one for grazing sheep. Day and nighttime trails lie close together. We came up there into a lovely harbour with a sheer cliff around it on both sides. Jutting headlands facing one another extended out beyond the harbour mouth, a narrow entrance. All my shipmates brought their curved ships up and moored them inside the hollow harbour in a tightly clustered group. In that spot there were never any waves, large or small. Everything was calm and bright around them. But I moored my black ship all by itself, outside the harbour, right against the land, tying it to the rock. I clambered up the cliff and stood there on a rugged outcrop, looking round. I could see no evidence of human work or ploughing, only smoke arising from the land. I sent some comrades out to learn what the inhabitants were like, the men who ate the food this land produced. I chose 2 men, with a third as herald. They left the ships and came to a smooth road which wagons used to haul wood to the city from high mountain slopes. Outside the town, they met a young girl collecting water, the noble daughter of Antiphates, a Laestrygonian. She'd come down there to the fine flowing spring, Ithaca, where the townsfolk went to draw their water. The men walked up and spoke to her. They asked who ruled the people here and who they were. She quickly pointed out her father's lofty home. They reached the splendid house and found his wife, a gigantic woman, like a mountain peak. They were appalled. She called her husband, strong Antiphates, out of a meeting, and he arranged a dreadful death for them. He seized one of my shipmates and prepared to make a meal of him. The other 2 jumped up, ran off, and came back to the ships. Antiphates then raised a hue and cry throughout the city. Once they heard his call, the powerful Laestrygonians poured out, thronging in countless numbers from all sides, not like men at all, but giants. From the cliffs they hurled rocks down on us, the largest stones a man can lift. The clamour rising from the ships was dreadful. Men were being destroyed, ships were smashing into one another, with those monsters spearing men like fish and taking them to eat a gruesome meal. While they were slaughtering the sailors there, trapped in the deep harbour, I grabbed my sword, pulled it from my thigh, and cut the cables on my dark, proud ship. I yelled out to my crew, ordering them to put their oars to work so we could get away from this disaster. They all churned the water with their oar blades, terrified of being killed. We were relieved as my ship left the beetling cliffs behind, moving out to sea. But all the other ships, moored together in the harbour, were destroyed. We sailed on from there with heavy hearts, grieving for dear shipmates we had lost, though glad we had avoided death ourselves, until we reached the island of Iliad, where fair-haired Circe lived, fearful goddess with a human voice, sister by blood to bloody-minded Aeetes, both children of sun-god Helios, who gives men light. Perse, child of Oceanus, was their mother. Here, in silence, we brought our ship to land, inside a harbour with fine anchorage. Some god was guiding us. Then we disembarked and laid up in that spot 2 days and nights, our hearts consumed with weariness and pain. When fair-haired dawn gave birth to the 3rd day, with my sharp sword and spear, I quickly climbed above the ships up to a vantage point to see if I could notice signs of men or hear their voices. From the rocky lookout where I stood, I could see smoke rising from the spacious grounds of Circe's home through dense brush and trees. Seeing the smoke, my mind and heart considered going down to look around, but as I thought about it, the best initial action seemed to be to get back to our swift ship by the shore, let my comrades eat, then send them out to reconnoitre. On my way back there, in a lonely place close to our curved ship, Some god pitied me and sent across my path a huge stag with massive antlers, on its way from pastures in the woods towards the river for a drink. The sun's heat forced it down. As it came out, I struck it in the spine, the middle of its back. My bronze-tipped spear sliced right through. With a groan, the stag collapsed down in the dust, and its spirit left the beast. Planting my foot, I pulled my bronze spear out of the wound and left it lying there on the ground. I picked up some willow shoots and wove a rope about 6 feet in length by plaiting them together back and forth until they were well twisted. After that, I tied the huge creature's feet together and, carrying it across my back, returned to my black ship. I had to support myself by leaning on my spear. There was no way I could just sling a beast as large as that and hold it on my shoulder with one hand. I tossed the stag down right before our ship and cheered up my crew with words of comfort, standing by each man in turn. "My friends, we're not going down to Hades' house just yet, although we're grieving. Not until the day our fate confronts us. So come on now. While there's food and drink in our swift ship, let's think of eating, so we don't waste away and die of hunger." That's what I said. My words soon won them over. Uncovering their heads, they were amazed at the stag lying there, such a huge beast beside the restless sea. Once they'd had their fill of looking at it, they washed their hands and made a splendid meal. So, all day long, until the sun went down, we sat feasting on that huge supply of meat and on sweet wine. When the sun had set and darkness came, we lay down on the shore. As soon as rose-fingered early dawn appeared, I called a meeting and addressed them all. "Shipmates, though you're all feeling our distress, listen now to what I have to tell you. My friends, how far east or west we are, we just don't know, or how far away from where the sun, who brings men light, goes down underneath the earth or rises. But let's quickly put our heads together to see if we have any options left. I don't think we do. I climbed a rocky crag, and from that vantage point spied out the land. It's an island with deep water round it, low-lying and flat. I saw with my own eyes smoke rising in the middle of the island, through dense brush and trees." That's what I said. But their spirits fell, as they remembered what Laestrygonian Antiphates had done, and the violence of great Polyphemus, that man-eating Cyclops. They wept aloud, shedding frequent tears. But their laments were not much help to us. So I split up my well-armed comrades in 2 separate groups, each with its own leader. I commanded one, and godlike Eurylochus led the other. We shook our tokens in a bronze helmet. When brave Eurylochus's lot fell out, he set off with 22 companions, all in tears, leaving us behind to grieve. In a forest clearing, they found Circe's house, built of polished stone with views in all directions. There were mountain wolves and lions round it, all bewitched by Circe's wicked potions. But these beasts made no attack against my men. No, they stood on their hind legs and fawned, wagging their long tails. Just as dogs will beg around their master when he comes from dinner, since he's always bringing scraps to please their hearts, that's how the wolves and sharp-clawed lions there kept fawning round those men, who were afraid just looking at those fearful animals. They stood in fair-haired Circe's gateway and heard her sweet voice singing in the house as she went back and forth before her loom, weaving a huge, immortal tapestry, the sort of work which goddesses create, finely woven, luminous, and beautiful. Then Polites, one of the men's leaders, the man I trusted most and cherished more than any of my comrades, spoke. "My friends, someone's in there moving to and fro before a giant tapestry and singing so sweetly the floor echoes to her song. Perhaps a goddess, or maybe a woman. Come, let's call out to her right now." He spoke, and they all started shouting, calling her. She came out at once, opened the bright doors and asked them in. In their foolishness, they all accompanied her. Eurylochus was the only one who stayed outside. He thought it could be something of a trick. She led the others in and sat them down on stools and chairs, then made them a drink of cheese and barley meal and yellow honey stirred into Pramnian wine. But with the food she mixed a vicious drug, so they would lose all memories of home. When they drunk down the drink she gave them, she took her wand, stuck each man, then penned them in her pigsties. They had bristles, heads and voices, just like pigs. Their bodies looked like swine, but their minds were as before, unchanged. In their pens they wept. In front of them Circe threw down feed, acorns, beechnuts, cornel fruit, the stuff pigs eat when they are wallowing in mud. Eurylochus came back immediately to our swift black ship, bringing a report of his comrade's bitter fate. But though he tried, he couldn't say a single word. His heart felt too much pain. His eyes were full of tears, his mind transfixed with sorrow. When all of us, astonished, questioned him, he spoke out, telling us of his companion's fate. "Lord Odysseus, we went through the woods as you had ordered, and in a clearing there found a splendid house built of polished stone with a view in all directions. Inside someone was singing in a loud, clear voice, in front of an enormous piece of weaving, moving back and forth, some god or woman. They all shouted, calling her. She came out, opened up her shining doors without delay, and asked them in. In their foolishness they all accompanied her inside. But I, thinking it might be a trick, remained behind. Then the whole bunch disappeared, all of them. No one came out again, and I sat there a long time, watching for them." He spoke. I slung my large bronze silver-studded sword across my shoulder, grabbed my bow, and told him to take me back there on the selfsame trail. He gripped me with both hands, clasped my knees, moaned and spoke to me. His words had wings. "Child raised by Zeus, don't take me there against my will. Leave me here. I know you won't be coming back again yourself or bringing back the rest of your companions. No, let's get out of here, and quickly too. With these men here, we may still escape this day's disasters." That's what he said. But I gave him this answer. "Eurylochus, you can stay right here in this very spot, eating and drinking by our black hollow ship. But I will go. I don't have any choice." With these words, I went up from the ship and shore. But while I was moving through the sacred groves, on my way to Circe's home, a goddess skilled in many magic potions, I met Hermes of the Golden Wand. I was going toward the house. He looked like a young man when the first growth of hair is on his lip, the age when youthful charm is at its height. He gripped my hand, spoke to me, and said, "Where are you off to now, you poor man, going through these hills all by yourself and knowing nothing of the country here? Your comrades over there in Circe's house are penned up like swine in narrow stalls. Are you intending now to set them free? I don't think you'll make it back yourself. You'll stay there with the rest of them. But come, I'll keep you free from harm and save you. Here, take a remedial potion with you, and go in Circe's house. It's a protection, and will clear your head of any dangers this day brings. Now I'll describe for you each and every one of Circe's fatal ploys. She'll mix a drink for you, and with the food include a drug. But she won't have power to cast a spell on you. This fine potion, which I'll provide you, won't allow it. I'll tell you now in detail. When Circe strikes you with her elongated wand, then draw that sharp sword on your thigh and charge, just as if you meant to slaughter her. She'll be afraid, and then she'll order you to sleep with her. At that point, don't refuse to share a goddess's bed if you want her to free your crew and entertain you. But tell her she must swear a solemn oath on all the blessed gods not to make plans to harm you with some other injury, so when she's got you with your clothes off, she won't change you to an unmanned weakling." After saying this, the killer of Argus pulled a herb out of the ground, gave it to me, and explained its features. Its roots were black, the flower milk-white. Moly, the gods call it. It's hard for mortal men to pull it out, but gods have power to do anything. Then Hermes left, up through the wooded island, bound for high Olympus. I continued on to Circe's home. As I kept going, my heart was turning over many gloomy thoughts. Once I'd made it over to the gateway of fair-haired Circe's house, I just stood there and called out. The goddess heard my voice. She came out at once, opened her bright doors and asked me in. So I went in with her, heart full of misgivings. She led me in and sat me on a silver-studded chair, a lovely object beautifully made, with a stool underneath to rest my feet. She mixed her potion in a golden cup for me to drink. In it she placed the drug, her heart still bent on mischief. She gave it me, and when I'd drunk it, without being bewitched, she struck me with her wand and said these words, "Off now to your sty, and lie in there with the rest of your companions." She spoke, but I pulled out the sharp sword on my thigh and charged at Circe, as if I meant to kill her. She gave a piercing scream, ducked, ran up, and clasped my knees. Through her tears she spoke. Her words had wings. "What sort of man are you? Where are you from? Where is your city, your parents? I'm amazed you drank this drug and were not bewitched. No other man who swallowed it has been able to resist, once it's passed the barrier of his teeth. In that chest of yours your mind holds out against my spell. You must be Odysseus, that resourceful man. The killer of Argus, Hermes of the golden wand, always told me Odysseus in his swift black ship would come on his way back from Troy. Come, put that sword back in its sheath, and let the two of us go up into my bed. When we've made love, then we can trust each other." Once she said this, I answered her and said, "O Circe, how can you ask me to be kind to you? In your own home you've changed my crew to pigs and keep me here. You're plotting mischief now, inviting me to go up to your room into your bed. So when I have no clothes you can do me harm, destroy my manhood. But I won't agree to climb into your bed unless, goddess, you'll agree to swear a solemn oath that you'll make no more plans to injure me with some new mischief." When I'd said this, she made the oath at once, as I had asked, that she'd not harm me. Once she'd sworn and finished with the oath, I went up with Circe to her splendid bed. Meanwhile, 4 women serving in her home were busy in the hall, children of springs, groves, and sacred rivers flowing to the sea. One of them threw lovely purple coverlets across the chairs and spread linen underneath. Another pulled silver tables over to each chair and then placed silver baskets on them. The third one mixed deliciously sweet wine inside a silver bowl, then served it out in cups of gold. The fourth brought water in, lit a large fire under a huge cauldron, and warmed the water up until it boiled inside the shining bronze. She sat me in a tub, then, diluting water from that cauldron so it was right for me, gave me a bath, pouring water on my head and shoulders until the weariness that sapped my spirit had left my limbs. After bathing me, she rubbed me with rich oil, then dressed me in a fine cloak and tunic, and led me to a handsome chair embossed with silver, finely crafted, with a footstool underneath. A servant brought in a lovely golden jug, poured water out into a silver basin so I could wash, and set a polished table at my side. Then the worthy steward brought in bread and set it there before me, placing with it large quantities of food, given freely from her stores. She bid me eat. But in my heart I had no appetite, so I sat there, thinking of other things, my spirit sensing something ominous. When Circe noticed me just sitting there, not reaching for the food, weighed down with grief, she came up close and spoke winged words to me. "Odysseus, why are you sitting here like this, like someone who can't speak, eating out your heart, never touching food or drink? Do you think this is another trick? You don't need to fear. I've already made a solemn promise I won't injure you." When she said this, I answered her and said, "O Circe, what man with any self-respect would start to eat and drink before he had released his shipmates and could see them face to face? If you are being sincere in asking me to eat and drink, then set my comrades free, so my own eyes can see my trusty crew." When I'd said this, Circe went through the hall, her wand clutched in her hand, and opened up the pigsty doors. She drove the herd out. They looked like full-grown pigs, 9 years old, standing in front of her. She went through them, smearing on each one another potion. Then those bristles brought on by that nasty drug which they'd received from Circe earlier fell from their limbs, and they were men again, younger and much taller than before, more handsome to the eye. Now they knew me. Each man grabbed my hand, and all of them were overcome with passionate weeping. So the house around them echoed strangely. Circe herself was moved to pity them. Standing close to me, the lovely goddess said, "Son of Laertes, resourceful Odysseus, born from Zeus, go now to the seashore, back to your swift ship, drag it up on land and stash your goods and all equipment in the caves. Then come back here in person and bring your loyal companions with you." Her words persuaded my proud heart. I left, going back to our swift ship beside the sea. I found my trusty comrades of the ship lamenting miserably, shedding many tears. Just as on a farm, calves frisk around the herd when cows, having had their fill of grazing, return back to the yard. They skip ahead and pens no longer hold them as they run, mooing in a crowd around their mothers. That's how my shipmates, once they saw me, thronged around, weeping. In their hearts it felt as if they'd got back to their native land, the rugged town of Ithaca itself, where they were born and bred. In their distress they spoke winged words to me. "You're back, you favourite of Zeus. We're glad of that, as if we had returned to Ithaca, our native land. But come, tell us how the rest of our companions came to grief." They spoke. I replied and calmed them down. "First of all, let's drag the ship on shore. Stow all our goods and tackle in the caves. Then you can rouse yourselves and come with me to see your comrades in Circe's sacred home, eating and drinking. They have lots of both." The words I spoke quickly brought them round. Of all my shipmates there, Eurylochus was the only one to hesitate. He spoke. His words to them had wings. "You wretched creatures, where are you going? Are you so in love with these disasters you'll go back there to Circe's house, where she'll transform you all to pigs, or wolves, or lions, so we'll be forced to guard her great house for her? It's like what the Cyclops did when our companions went inside his cave with this reckless man Odysseus. Thanks to his foolhardiness, those men were killed." Eurylochus finished. Then my heart considered drawing the long sword hanging on my sturdy thigh and striking him, slicing off his head and knocking it to earth, even though he was a relative of mine, closely linked by marriage. But my crewmen, one by one, relaxed me with their soothing words. "Child of Zeus, if you give the order, we'll leave him behind. He can stay here beside the ship and stand guard over it, while you lead us to Circe's sacred home." This said, they moved up from the ships and shore, and Eurylochus was not left behind at the hollow ship. He came along as well, afraid I might reprimand him harshly. Meanwhile, Circe had been acting kindly to the rest of my companions in her home. She'd given them baths, rubbed them with rich oil, and dressed them in warm cloaks and tunics. We found them all quite cheerful, eating in the hall. When my men saw each other and recognized their shipmates face to face, their crying and moaning echoed through the house. The lovely goddess came to me and said, "Resourceful Odysseus, Laertes' son and Zeus's child, you should no longer rouse an outburst of such grief. I know myself every pain you've suffered on the fish-filled seas, every wrong that hostile men have done on land. But come now, eat my food and drink my wine, until you've got back that spirit in your chest you had when you first left your native land of rugged Ithaca. You're exhausted now. You have no spirit, always brooding on your painful wanderings. There is no joy inside your hearts. You've been through so much." Our proud hearts were persuaded by her words, so we stayed there, day by day, for 1 whole year, feasting on sweet wine and large supplies of meat. But as the months and seasons came and went, long spring days returned. A year had passed. My trusty comrade summoned me and said, "You God-driven man, now the time has come to think about your native land once more, if you are fated to be saved and reach your high-roofed home and your own country." My proud heart was persuaded by their words, so all day long until the sun went down we sat there feasting on huge amounts of meat and on sweet wine. Once the sun had set and darkness came, they lay down to sleep in the shadowy hall. I went up to Circe in her splendid bed and clasped her knees. The goddess listened to me as I begged, speaking these winged words to her. Circe, grant me the promise which you made to send me home. My spirit's keen to leave, as are the hearts in my companions too, who, as they grieve around me, drain my heart whenever you are not among us. I spoke. The lovely goddess answered me at once. Resourceful Odysseus, Laertes' son and Zeus's child, if it's against your will, you should not now remain here in my house. But first you must complete another journey to the home of Hades and dread Persephone. Consult the shade of that Theban prophet, blind Tiresias. His mind is unimpaired, even though he's dead. Persephone has granted him the power to understand. The others flit about, mere shadows. As Circe finished, my spirit was breaking. I sat weeping on her bed, for my heart no longer wished to live or glimpse the daylight. But when I'd had enough of shedding tears and rolling in distress, I answered her. Circe, who'll be the guide on such a journey? No one ever sailed a black ship down to Hades. The lovely goddess gave me a quick answer. Resourceful Odysseus, Laertes' son and Zeus's child, don't concern yourself about a pilot for your ship. Raise the mast, spread your white sail, and just take your seat. Then the breath of north wind Boreas will take you on your way. But once your ship crosses flowing Oceanus, drag it ashore at Persephone's groves on the level beach, where tall poplars grow, willows shed their fruit, right beside deep swirling Oceanus. Then you must go to Hades' murky home. There, Periphlegython and Cocytus, a stream which branches off the river Styx, flows into Acheron. There's a boulder where these two foaming rivers meet. Go there, heroic man, and follow my instructions. Move close and dig a hole there 2 feet square. Pour libations to the dead around it, first with milk and honey, next sweet wine, and then a third with water. And shake out white barley meal. Then pray there in earnest to many powerless heads of those who've died, with a vow that when you reach Ithaca you'll sacrifice a barren heifer in your home, the best you have, and will cram the altar with fine gifts, and that you'll make an offering to Tiresias, a black ram just for him, the finest creature in your flocks. And then, when you've made prayers of supplication to the celebrated nations of the dead, you must sacrifice a ram and a black ewe, twisting their heads down towards Erebus, while you turn to face the flowing rivers, looking backwards. At that point, many spirits will emerge. They are the shadows of the dead. Then call your crew. Tell them to flay and burn the sheep lying there, killed by pitiless bronze. Pray to the gods, to powerful Hades and dread Persephone. Then from your thigh you must yourself draw that sharp sword out, and sitting there prevent the powerless heads of those who've died from coming near the blood until you've listened to Tiresias. That prophet, the leader of his people, will soon come to you. He'll tell you your course, the distance you must go on your return, and how to sail across the fish-filled seas. Circe finished. Dawn soon came on her golden throne. The nymph then dressed me in a cloak and tunic, and clothed her body in a long white robe, a lovely, finely woven garment, and tied a splendid golden belt around her waist. On her head she placed a veil. Then I went through her house, rousing my companions, going up to each man and reassuring him. No more sleeping now, no sweet slumbering. Let's go. Queen Circe's told me what to do. That's what I said, and their proud hearts agreed. But I could not lead my men off safely, not even from that place. Of all of them, the youngest was Elpenor. In battle, not all that brave or clever. He'd lain down in Circe's sacred home some distance off, away from his companions. Heavy with wine, he'd climbed onto the roof, seeking cooler air. When he heard the noise and the commotion made by his shipmates as they moved around, he jumped up on the spot, but then forgot to use the long ladder to come down again. He fell headfirst from the roof, snapped his neck, and broke his spine. His spirit went to Hades. As my men came out, I spoke to them and said, "No doubt you now believe you're going home. back to your dear native land. But Circe has stated we must take a different route, to Hades' home and dread Persephone, to meet the shade of Tiresias from Thebes. That's what I said, and it broke their spirits. Sitting down right where they were, they wept, they tore their hair. But their laments were useless. We moved down to our swift ship by the shore, shedding many tears of grief. Meanwhile, Circe went out and tied a ram and a black ewe by our black ship. She'd slipped past us with ease. For who can see a god going back and forth if she has no desire to be observed?